Okay, so this is a tutorial on how I did this sheet metal fire pit in Fusion. They have this new tool here called sheet metal. It's a different workspace, and you can make all kinds of cool stuff with it. So I'll just show you what I did. Here's a picture of it. It's done with, I did it with stainless steel, so I had to put these perforations in it. Normally with mild steel you wouldn't need to do that. You can just put it on a regular sheet metal brake. But I added these and it actually worked really well. This was 16 gauge, I want to say, and then I used 8 gauge for the platform where the fire goes, and for the little brackets down here for the feet. But I'll show you how I did this. So make a new design. I'm going to make this in inches. I normally use millimeters, but this is actually, I don't know, this is big enough that it makes sense to me to do it in inches. This sometimes doesn't show up. It's kind of irritating. You kind of have to trick it sometimes to get this little note to come up. That must be a bug. Anyway, changing that to inch just because it's easier for me to kind of conceptualize it that way. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is draw the base. So I'll create a sketch on the top plane here. And then I'll go to sketch, and then I'll do a polygon. And I'll do an edge polygon because I know how wide I want it to be. So I go from here over, and I'll make that 16.5. That was a pretty good size for my space, 16.5. And then enter, and then when you move the mouse, it gives you up or down. And then I'm going to make this 3-sided, which is an equilateral triangle. Stop the sketch, and then I'm going to do give it a height. So I'll construct an offset plane from the bottom by 40 inches. That seems to work pretty well. The smoke stays out of your face for the most part. If it was taller, it might be a little bit better, but 40 is pretty good. And then I'm going to make another sketch there from here, and then I will sketch, project, include, and then I project this little point because I want these to be, the top and bottom to be in line with each other. Then I'll do polygon, inscribed polygon like this. And then I'll hit tab and make that 3-sided. And then for this, I'll make it 4 inches, which is works pretty well. All right, stop that. And then I go to create loft. And then I'll loft this to this. And it gives me this like kind of a, truncated pyramid kind of shape. Okay, so that's going to be where my starting point for the shape of this thing. So I'll go here to sheet metal, and you'll see this changes up here. So I want each of these to be a different component, so I'll be making components for this. But take a look at this sheet metal rules right here. So if you go, this will give you rules for the different types of materials you're using. So if you want to do stainless steel in millimeters, this is it's already got a rule built in there. If we go with steel, that's 2.5 millimeter. See, there's all these bin conditions. So what this does is, when you look at, and you think about the way sheet metal is built, when you do a bend, it doesn't actually give you a right angle, right? It gives you these little, you can see it in a little preview here. It gives you these little rounded edges, and it makes the flanges shorter by a certain degree, and it's all a function of what the material is and how it's bent. So thankfully, all this stuff's built in. If you're savvy, you can make your own. You can make your own here. You can edit them, but that's where you do that. But I'm just gonna. I don't really know much about this. Is the first thing I've ever made out of sheet metal, and know next to nothing about it. So this is just me kind of figuring it out. All right, so I'll make a new component, and I'll call this front. And then again, you can see over here immediately that it asks you what rule you want to use. So I'm going to go with this one, steel inches. And just use those rules. Click OK. Then I'll make a sketch here on the front part. And then I'm going to draw the shape of that front. So first I'll go to sketch offset. And then I want to move this over this way by -3. Then I'll extend these down to make some legs. Then I'll do this line here for the bottom part, and then this, I don't want to use a constraint there, this to here. want it to be parallel to that, so I'm just going to let that line touch right there. And then I'll go over this way and touch that. So it's got parallel constraints, and that's good. Okay, let's give this some dimensions. So I'll right click, and you can go to, where is that? I think it's sketch dimension. You can also find that at menu, but I usually just use the shortcut, which is D. So D for dimension, and then that, and make that 3. Whoops, start at the bottom. D for dimension to here, and then D, I'm still in that tool, so I can go up to there. Alright, so 3, and then I want this to be 3, and I want this to be, what, 12, I guess? That's pretty good. Stop sketch, and then I can just take those profiles and make a flange out of them. So click the flange tool here, and click this, this, and this. And if I zoom in, you can see it's giving me a panel, right? So a sheet metal panel. It says side 1, that's the default, and you can do side 2, which would be the other way, or you can do symmetric. But side 1 is what I want, and you'll see why in a minute. Click OK. So that's one panel done. Right here and activate, and I will make a new component here, and I'll call this side. And I'll take that. Put it there. So I made a sketch on this side. I'll do offset again. O is the shortcut for that. Click this, back that way by -3. And then I'm going to extend, because I want that same leg profile I made on the other side. Stop that. Create a flange here and here. Side 1's the default. And you'll start to see why that's important here, right? I don't want these things to intersect each other. They need to be next to each other, and they're going to need flanges that come out. So I can work from that. Click OK, and that looks good. I'll go back here, activate. Then I'm going to take this one, right click, move copy. I'll move the pivot position to the middle of the, oh, sorry, I need a spot for that. I'm just going to make a sketch here. Then I'll do a line from the midpoint at the bottom of that over to here. And then I'll do another one from here, this midpoint over to here. And that's going to give me, that cross is the midpoint of this equilateral triangle. So I'll go T for trim to get that off. Now I've got a point that I can rotate around the center on. You can axis for the center, think of it that way. So what I'm going to do is take the side here, right click, move copy. I'll take the pivot point over to there, and then check that box. And then I'll rotate this way. And I want to click, oh, it doesn't want me to make a copy, that's weird. Control C, Control V, Command C, Command V. Pivot point to there, check that, and then rotate over here by 120. Click OK. So that's an instance now. So whatever I do to this one is going to happen to this one. It's going to save us some time. I'll turn off the bodies because I don't need that kind of base body anymore. And I'll turn off that sketch because I don't need that anymore either. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is make some flanges. Now, the flanges that are coming off of this need to meet, right? And that means that this thing is going to have what's called a dihedral angle, which is the angle between these two angled planes. So those two are 60.5. So if you imagine, like I know they're at 120 degrees to each other because they're that's a third of 360, but the dihedral angle is going to be different because this thing is it's got a smaller triangle on the top and it does on the bottom. But anyway, so if I just click on this face and then shift click on this face, I can see down here what the angle is between the two faces. And it's 60.5. So now to make a flange, I'll turn these sides off so I know what I'm working with. Click flange, and then I'll grab this one and this one. The height will be 1 inch, and I want them to go the other way, right? So it's going to be minus 60.5 divided by 2. So half of that angle, right? So whatever the dihedral angle is, you want to cut that in half. Enter. And then watch what happens. I'll turn this one on and this one. Actually, just the one because I don't want to confuse those two angles there. All right, so I'm going to do another flange, and then I click the inside edge, same edge I picked on the other one, right? Same thing over here. Shift click that. Distance is 1. And then the angle is going to be, again, minus 60.5 divided by 2. And when you look over here, you'll see that these are now touching, which is exactly what I want, right? Good. Click OK. And then when I turn on this one, you should see there's another flange there too. All right, so now I've got flanges. Then the next thing I want to do is make a platform for this. So I'll go offset plane, turn on the origin, and go from here up to, I'm going to click on this point, but I don't want it to go all that way. It needs to have a little bit of a ledge, so I'll do this minus 1.5, and that should give me a good starting point. I'll do a new component here, and I'll call this platform. I'll take that sketch onto this plane, and then I'll go to sketch, project, include, intersect, and then I want the faces of the insides of each of these panels. So there's that face, and that face, and you'll see that I've got these little triangular shapes now. Click OK. I need that to be a closed profile, so I'm just going to close these little gaps in here. The gaps are made by the bend, right? Make a line from there to there. Over this way, same thing. Here to here. And here to here. And there we go. So that gives me my, my sketch for the flange. Make another flange there. Let's make this one go back the other way, because remember, if we did it up, it would be cutting basically through the material. So we go like that, and then I need to know what this dihedral angle is here, right? So click on this, and then shift click that, 94 degrees. So let's do this. I will make a flange, and then I'm going to pick those bottom edges here and here. Pull this down by 1. And it defaults to 90, but I need to go 94. Actually, the other way. So it's got to be 90 minus 4, which is 86. And if I look closely here, you should see that there's no gap there, right? It's just they're touching now. Click OK. All right, we got a flange for that, and then I'm going to go up here, activate that, and now I'm going to need to make some feet for this thing. So I'll go new component, call this foot, and then I'm going to make a sketch, create a sketch on this. Zoom around to be able to see this so it makes sense to me. And then I will sketch, project, include, project. And then I'll just project these two edges, the inside edges, and then make that a closed profile. So line from here to here, from here to here. All right. Then I'll make a flange on this, going up. So that's a, I need that to go side 1, so it's pointing up because I want it to be flush with the edge of this thing. Click OK. Then I'm going to give this a couple of flanges. So I'll do a flange on this one, and here. Take the down arrow to get to that. And I'll go up by 1. And then instead of 90, I want it to be 86, right? Because that should be the same. Actually, sorry, it's going the other way now, so 94. And that should be the same, right? Because those angles didn't change. And it looks like that's correct. Click OK, and there you go. So once again, I can go back here, right? Activate. I can take this foot. I'll turn on that sketch I made here. And then I can do create Yeah, those other tools aren't really here, so we'll just do it the old-fashioned way. So I'll grab that, Command C, Command V, set pivot to here, check that, and I'll rotate over, whoops, 0, and this one, go 120, and then I do it again, Command V, here to here, check again, and then I'll go to be 0, and this one to go minus 120. Or you can do 240 and you get the same thing. So now you have all your parts, you just need a way to put it together. So let's turn off this origin right here. And the way we're going to do that is to make some holes for rivets. So the rivets I've got are, what do you call it? They are 1/8 inch. So we're going to do that, make those with the hole tool here. So I'll start with the front and activate that. And I'll do this. I'll create a sketch here, and then L for line. I'm going to go from the midpoint there to this up here. And then I'll take that and make it, now I need a point. So let's first of all D for dimension, and make it go this way and see what we got. It's about 40. Yeah, a little more than 40, right? Because everything was 40 inches tall. I'm going to need a rivet like every, let's see what I did here. I think it's something like every 6 inches. This is probably overkill. Like I said, I don't really know what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of making it up as I go along, but I'm sure there's a rule of thumb for that. But it looks like I've got 1 inch off the top and then 6 inches on each one of those. So let's do this. I'll do a point, sketch, point, do it there. And then D for dimension from that point to that point. And make sure it's in this dimension here. It's got to be aligned, right? I'll make that 1. And then I will take this sketch, and then I'll do a what do you call it? Rectangular pattern. Direction will be this thing here. And then I want the distance to be 6. How many do I need? So 3. That's the total distance. I don't want that. I want it spacing to be 6. And then the total to be however many I need. So 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, looks all right. And then I'll just do another one at the top. So once again, I'll do a point, sketch, point here, and then sketch, whatever, D for dimension, here to here. Make sure that's aligned. I think there's a way to, I saw somebody do this trick the other day where you can, is it the down arrow, is it right click? Yeah, so you can right click and go down here and make it vertical, horizontal, or aligned, which is cool. So anyway, align, now I can't make it vertical or horizontal. Click that and go 1. And that should be okay. It's a little weird that these are closer together than the rest of them, but it doesn't really matter. You can make it however you want. Okay, stop the sketch, and I'm going to create hole, and I'm going to do from sketch multiple. I'll pick all of these points that I just made. And the diameter, you can see here I've already got it at 1.25. Depending on how you're fabricating this, you might want to make that a little bigger depending on your tolerance. And I'm going by 1 inch here because it's just going to go through everything, right? So that's the depth. Click OK. And then you'll see that this one got it, and so did this one, right? This one over here. Now, here's another thing. If you want to finesse the so modify, yeah, I can fill it, chamfer. There's some tools here to make this thing a little bit more smooth and actually less dangerous, truth be told. So I'll show you how I did that. So it's just modify fillet here. I'll do it there. Make these all the same, just for simplicity's sake. I'm just taking all of these corners and I'm going to round them out. That I'm just going to work on this one right here, but so you get the idea. Alright, and then one more here and over here. And I'll make this go by 1 inch so that it just rounds all the way to that fold right there. Enter. And then you'll see now there's this ugly thing peeking out right there, so we can fix that. I'll right click on this and then activate. And I'll go here, there, and then edit the sketch. And zoom out so I can see what I'm looking at. And then over here, what I'm going to do is take that, click on that point, click on this, and then I'm going to delete that constraint. Click on this point, click on that constraint, delete that. Now I should be able to move this, right, which is good. So now what I want to do is a dimension. So D from here to here, and then I'll align it over there. And call that, let's call it 0.5, that's probably safe. Because think of half of the fillet would be the radius, so that's probably going to work. Click OK, and then you'll see that this the shape of that thing changed, right? Because I changed the sketch, so now it's shorter. And not quite there. It looks like I would probably need another 2.84 for whatever, because that makes sense because this isn't actually they're not at a right angle to each other or parallel. So I would expect that. Anyway, but you can change the sketch to change that. It'll go along for the ride. The rest of these parts, of course, would need holes. So I've got 3 here, 2 on each side of the feet, and that's pretty much it. So I'm not going to deal with the rest of that. I'll just show you the next step once you've got all your stuff worked out, and that is to make to unfold things. So you can unfold selected bends to see how this thing would work, or you can generate a flat pattern from the folded design. So I'll do that, create that. Stationary face, I'll just pick that one, click OK. And then what you'll see is this layout. So what it is it's an unfolded piece, right? It does the work for you, does the geometry for you. And it shows you here what the center line of your fold is. Now, again, like I said, I've never done this before, so I'm sure there's a way to, give yourself a reference there for where you're supposed to fold. I've noticed that sheet metal designs have these they have these little notches in them, which I guess is a guide to know where to break stuff. But anyway, it's unfolded here. So then the next thing I did to make my part was export as DXF, convert splines to polylines. That's probably a good idea, depending on what software you're using. Polylines tend to be a little bit more consistent, a little more forgiving. Click OK, and then you save it somewhere, right? So I laid these out in AutoCAD and then made my little dashed lines and all that stuff here. But you flatten things out here and then exit flat, and then it just goes back to this design that's all folded up. And you can do the same thing for any of these parts, right? So I can do modify, unfold, and you can unfold that, unfold all bends and see what they do, right? Escape, or you can modify, create flat pattern, and pick that. You could probably do multiples. Can you? No, I think it's just one. Create flat pattern of that, and then it'll show you once again. Here it is. There's your dash line, and then these are sort of the limits of the fold, I think. And again, exit export, and then exit flat to go back to the model. So that's it. That's how you design stuff in sheet metal with Fusion. Check out the Instructable. You'll see all the other details there. That's where all the files are. Be sure to leave a comment if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer. And if you make something cool, show us what you did.